everybody. I'm inside the Tudor booth at Watches and Wonders, joined by Cole Pennington.
It's a pleasure to receive you here at the Tudor booth.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here. So we have some new pieces, new novelties for this year. We'd love to get a deep dive on.
Sure.
And I'll follow your lead. Now, where do we want to begin? I mean, I think there's some great new stuff on the table. Do we want to start with a new collection with the 54 potentially?
I think we'll zoom out first.
Okay, sure.
First, we'll zoom out. Behind you is a picture of something. Our viewers can't see it, unfortunately, but it is a picture of the new manufacturer at Lelac. So we just inaugurated a brand new facility entirely dedicated to Tudor-only manufacturing this past weekend.
Huh.
So this is huge news, and this allows us to do things that we couldn't do before. And all of these watches that you see here were made there. So that's the big news. So we'll open with that. And then I actually want to turn on you and ask what you are drawn to first, and we'll start there.
Now, the thing that I'm most excited about is because this is a new case altogether.
It is.
And when I'm looking at Tudor, you have to look at it in the perspective of, okay, well, what are they going to do next?
Yeah.
I didn't see this coming. So that's why I want to potentially start here. I don't know if anybody was asking for it, but now that it's here, I want to talk about it because I'm very excited about it.
Totally. All right, so.
54.
Well, that's right, Black Bay 54. The 54 is a reference to 1954, which is the year that the 7922 came out. So Tudor's first 200-meter water-rated dive watch. And stunning watch, of course, and this watch is not necessarily a recreation, so I wouldn't think of that. It wasn't, we set out to create a, modern 7922. That's not quite the case. It's more of a spiritual successor. Is it the Tudor that is the most similar to another model that was made in the Tudor history? Yes, it is. So Black Bay 54, we'll start with kind of the rundown of the specs, just the numbers. 37 millimeter case, 11.26 millimeters thick, 46 millimeter lug-to-lug. Case dimensionality. Interesting thing about this, this case, and this will be a point of contention for many people, but I will say here, this case wears pretty well on almost any wrist. We've had it on small wrists, big wrists. If you like vintage, you will be prone to liking the way this wears, which you do.
So that lug-to-lug dimension is slightly more compact than the 58. 58 is around 47. So it's not, from a length standpoint, in the same ballpark, slightly thinner.
That's right.
And you're also getting a new bezel design. So everything is more compact.
Yes, and we should talk about that too. So take a look at the dial. The hands, true to form, so true to the 7922, are pinched at the base. And the hour snowflake hand has been reshaped. So it's been teased out, elongated, and then the snowflake is slightly more compact to kind of fit this dial.
Got it.
Additionally, the lack of hash marks.
For the time elapsed, yeah.
Exactly. Of course, again, we'll go back to diving in general. As diving became more technically advanced, we were allowed or able to get down to smaller calibrations. They weren't in 1954. 5 minutes was kind of your 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. So that's why we have this, and we decided two things. A, you'll notice no red triangle at 12, which is kind of a signature element of the 58.
Yes.
So for this one, that's different. No red triangle anymore. And then, of course, the hash marks. So visual clarity, a kind of pure design on the bezel, and that helps kind of keep it, when we size something down, of course, we want to keep it clean and compact. So that's the 54 in a nutshell.
Crown design is also a little different.
That's right, and you can feel it too. So the crown has sharper teeth per se, rather than closer to what was coin edge on the 58, and the bezel design too. So of course the insert, which we just talked about, but then the actual bezel notches are more like crenulations. So they have a squared off top as opposed to a point, and that also comes from the 7922. So a lot of little details that were translated from that watch to this watch, and in a modern format, they come through really well. And
you're releasing this bracelet as well as in the rubber. The T-fit clasp is also present in both of these, so I also want to talk about that.
That's right. So the T-fit is something, I mean, it's a Tudor fan favorite.
It's a class-leading clasp for the segment, without question.
It's phenomenal. It really is. And a lot of folks ask, okay, can you put the T-fit on the Black Bay and so forth? And we'll get there, because we did. But T-fit on this, of course, you make a watch like this, you include something like T-fit. You kind of throw all of the features here, and it comes on a T-fit with both, which is nice too, and also helps again. So this is a watch made for many wrist sizes, not women or men or whatever. It really, we shouldn't think in such binary terms. It's just a 37 millimeter watch, true to the original. And what does this mean? Okay, well, it can be worn by lots of wrist sizes. Putting the T-fit further allows us to do that. So almost anyone can wear it, and the T-fit allows that too. Oh, and it's a cut-to-size strap, so that's nice. It's you literally cut the strap down to the size, and then you can micro-adjust.
And then micro-adjust with the T-fit.
Yeah,
so that's a really nice combination. Wonderful. I think that where we have to go next is the new Burgundy. Return to the Burgundy.
The great return.
It returns. So can we dive into that?
Dive into that. I love your puns. Excellent.
That was not intended, I promise.
So yeah, a few things. Let's start. Case dimensionality remains largely the same, except it is thinner. So this is a thinner case than the standard 41.
Do you know exactly what it is?
0.8 millimeters thinner.
Okay.
So it doesn't sound like a lot, but it does matter, of course.
Of course, yeah, no, it does.
And how we did that, a few technical tricks, but we've changed the shape of the crystal. We've managed to...
The dial a little bit seated differently.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've seen that happen before.
Yes, exactly. So this is... And it wears better with a thinner case, of course. Now, on a 5-link, 5-link bracelet with T-fit.
5-link and T-fit.
5-link
That's
and
very
T-fit.
nice. Polished.
So, yeah.
It's a sharp.
It's a bracelet reminiscent of a design you might be familiar with.
The original. One of the most important watches in the history of Tudor, without question.
Yeah.
This also, could we talk about the movement as well?
We sure can.
So, METAS certified movement.
That's
could
right.
you go through the testing? Could you walk us through and what this watch was able to withstand? Because it's a fully cased up test.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can do a whole video on.
Yeah, I'm
on
not asking you to go through every single thing, but we can visit the manufacturer at some point to do that.
Exactly. A few key points.
Yes.
One, anti-magnetic to 15,000 Gauss. So to give that some context, well, what does that mean? First thing, an MRI machine operates at 12,000 Gauss. So technically, in the unfortunate event that you had to get an MRI or whatever, this is rated to do that. But that's just to give you an idea. The cell phones and purse magnets are actually the #1 enemy of watches these days. So those are about 2,500 Gauss. So again, 15,000 Gauss rated. And part of METAS is actually being entirely made, manufactured, assembled, in Switzerland too, which again, manufactured, that's where it happens. And the testing is actually done in the manufacturer as well. And then random samples also are checked by METAS as well. So it's a big deal. And a key point to kind of mention here, this does hint towards the future of what Tudor's trying to accomplish. And we will see the entire range become METAS certified in due time.
We have available on this 5-link. We also have the 3-link. This is also potential for it too. You can buy this on the 3-link, is that correct?
You can buy it on a 3-link, yeah.
Okay.
3-link, and you can also buy it on rubber. Big watch. This is
It's an important watch.
It's a headliner. And I think, again, it represents more of the future of Tudor. One other thing I forgot to mention.
Oh, please.
Sun brush dial. So radial brushing on the dial as opposed to a matte dial, which the older one has. So that also represents a hint towards the future of the visual language that will continue.
It's wonderful. Moving right along, I do want to talk about this because I've long awaited these to get an upgrade. And because we saw last year the S&G models, which were upgraded with MT calibers. This year we see this being rolled out with the stainless steel options.
Yes, and a manufacturer movement.
Yes.
So that's the big news here. So manufacturer movement inside, but of course it doesn't stop there. We offer it on a 5-link now, which is let's talk about something you don't see coming. That is one. And T-fit again. So all the fan favorites. And I don't know if you agree with me, but this is kind of like one of those low-key, under-the-radar sleeper hits. It really is.
I think for most people, this is something that they've been asking for a long time. Because you look at that price segment around $3,000, a watch that could just do it all. This is like a purchase that somebody could make. I just want the best watch I possibly can for $3,000, maximizing my budget, cover me in all scenarios. This is why this watch makes a ton of sense.
It's so true. And it's also, it's pretty understated, right? Like, that's the good thing about it. And signature Tudor design, of course, snowflake hands and so forth, but it's also kind of it's a simple watch. For folks who don't, fancy themselves as a diver or a pilot with a GMT function, just a watch. This is a great execution of it. And now that you get all these accoutrements, like the 5-link and the T-fit, I think it makes a good...
And different dial colors, different case options, so you're opening this up to a wide ability to customize this to your own needs.
That's right. So there's anthracite with gilt printing. Then there's this light champagne dial. and then a blue dial. So
which is different than the current production blue that we've seen with the previous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
good point.
now let's shift over to GMT. Now this is, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but from the optics, like this just seems like a new dial, but that's great because when I first saw all the press releases, I'm like, this is the thing I just went to first because I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it does, like just the white with the combination of the Pepsi, it's a beautiful combination.
A cool one, yeah. So visually very interesting on its own, right? Then to add some context to it, it's a combination of colors that fans of vintage watches will recognize. White dial with the blue and red bezel. Kind of harkens back to mid-century aviation, a very well-known American airline as well.
Yeah.
That's one of them. That's the one. and yeah, so it's interesting to see a modern interpretation of, there's no direct link between the two per se.
Sure.
Also to note, this isn't a white dial, it's an opaline dial.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Yeah, well, there is a difference though. That's the thing.
Okay.
Silver grain texture, and if you look at it directly in the light, yes, it appears white. Canted a few degrees, and it's actually grayish silver. So that's a little trick to kind of, it's a watch that plays with the light, so to speak, of course, and has a piece of significance in a larger history of the GMT complication. So super, super interesting. I think a lot of folks will, two camps. One camp will think, this is, reminiscent of days gone by, aviation, and so forth. Other side will say, hey, that's a great color combination. Maybe they don't want a black dial, they want a lighter dial. So
and same dimensions as the 2018 Black Bay GMT.
Okay. And there's another thing to note. The brass surrounds on the indices are rhodium coated in darker colors than the normal one, if you can see that. So it creates a contrast between the dial and the indices, and the hands too. So you kind of see how they pop out. That's because the hands and the surrounds are darker on this one. Really, I think a lot of folks will like this watch. And interesting that you went right to this one.
The first photo I think I posted of Tudor for the entire event was this one, just because I just saw it and I'm like, hey, that's a familiar look, but it's a great addition to the collection. And finally, let's talk Tudor Royal.
So, Tudor Royal, the main talk of the town with the Royal is two new dial colors, chocolate brown and salmon. So, really, just a visual extension to the line. You're actually, to be totally frank, the suit you got on today, this watch, I can see it. You're a Royal guy.
So how do you position the Royal? I mean, how does Tudor think about the Royal within the broader collection? I mean, we've seen the Black Bay, but something like this, I mean, it does get glossed over quite a bit. I'm a big champion of the 1926. The style, I mean, there's a lot of watches that I think from this brand that does just get lost in the mix. I mean, for the Royal, I mean, what is kind of the focus here, and just giving us a sense of the position for the brand? Interesting question.
I think it's a question that a lot of enthusiasts ask. I mean, the sort of core of Tudor would be the Submariners from the mid-century era, right? And obviously that's revived in a number of forms. You could say the Pelagos 39, all the Black Bay range. Royal does often kind of get left out in the cold, but I will say there is quite a loyal following of the watch in many parts of the world. So yes, it is kind of easy to gloss over, but it almost has a cult status among a type of collector that's not necessarily the enthusiast that you or I usually talk to per se. So yeah, it's got some folks respect this watch quite a bit, but a lot of other folks forget it. So I'm glad that you are kind of highlighting it here.
Two new dial colors.
That's right.
So this is available, variety of case sizes, and then I think the other important point is, and this is the integrated watch for
exactly.
Tudor.
Yeah, that's a main point that I kind of left out earlier, right? The integrated stainless steel sports watch is a massive category, and this is Tudor's entrant.
Well, Cole, thank you very much for this discussion and getting into some of the details, because I think you're answering some of the questions that a Tudor buyer wants to know. They want to know about that change in the bezel. They want to know about the different, the finishing on the indices. So I really appreciate this insight. It's great to see you, and appreciate the sit down.
Yeah, and likewise. It's an absolute pleasure having you here and being able to talk through the watches, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Cole.
Of course.
Thank you, everybody. See you all next time.